Let me introduce you to Scott Brinker. Scott is the VP of Platform Ecosystems at HubSpot and has agreed to join us and talk about the current state of and future of ecosystems and what to do about it. Please.
All right.
Please have a
favorite
seat.
topic. Hi.
Yes, favorite topic. Hey, well, first of all, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming in. I know you had some commitments this morning, and so we appreciate you getting here this afternoon. It's nice. Talk to me about ecosystems. Give me your best definition. What do you call an ecosystem? Is it partners? Is it strategic alliances? What is it?
Yeah, so I think of ecosystem as the ultimate umbrella. This is all the companies, the people, the players that all surround a company and its success. So certainly, partners are at the heart of that. Very often with tech companies, we have a variety of different kinds of partners. We often have channels and services partners. We might have affiliated consultants and advisors for customers. We have, of course, tech partnerships. The particular area I specialize in at HubSpot is companies actually like Impartner, who build integrations into HubSpot so that customers can take advantage of HubSpot and these other tools in their tech stack together. And then, of course, you have strategic alliances and, in the case of HubSpot, how we think about our relationships with companies like Microsoft and Google and AWS.
It can be a big web of people.
It is a big web. And what's really exciting about these ecosystems is it's not a point-to-point relationship. It's not like between just HubSpot and each one of these partners is a single connection. It's very much about how these partners also interact with each other, the collaborations between solutions partners and app partners in the HubSpot ecosystem. Very often then things that come together where strategic alliance partners helping those partners come together. This is the stuff that I think is so exciting is it is a to be a little bit nerdy about it, it's like a kind of exponential factor. It's not just about doing addition, there's a multiplication. Hey, now I get the name of this conference. Yes, a multiplication effect that happens with ecosystems.
Absolutely. I saw something in the McKinsey report that said 66% of business leaders anticipate that ecosystems will be a disruptor to their business in 2025 and beyond. Does that resonate with you?
It definitely resonates. I think, to be a little bit spicy here, I feel like when you ask senior executives at a very high level, like ecosystems, most people are like, yeah, that sounds good. And then when it actually comes down to, okay, well, wait a second, what do we do differently? How do we change our business? How do we actually engage this? There's still a lot of fog here. I mean, to be honest, while there are certainly tech ecosystems that have been around for a long time, I think it's still a relatively new field that's been sort of emerging over these past 5 years where you're seeing a much broader set of companies get much more conscious about recognizing the different facets of the ecosystems they work with. But it's still taking a lot of work, I think, for companies to figure out, like, okay, how do we change the way we run from a strategy perspective all the way down to the operations of this to make this successful. I really loved the last session we were just listening into it, and you just go through these many different things that are required to actually operationalize successful ecosystems. It's not trivial.
It's not trivial. It's been an interesting evolution. I've been in the indirect go-to-market space for a while now, and we used to talk about the channel this and the channel that. And you know what? The channel still exists. It's the group of people in your ecosystem that actually sell your stuff. It's distributors and resellers and the old VAR term that you use. When the concept of partner came along, we said, well, that's channel on steroids. That's more than just the channel because these are influencers and referral providers and pre and post sales service providers. Ecosystem to me feels like just yet another kind of growth metric on top of that, where we're now saying, look, there's even people in your ecosystem that don't refer or influence, but they provide tech, et cetera. So it does feel like kind of a crowning definition, for now. I don't know what comes after ecosystems, but there will be some to growth. What do you think is the biggest shift that's happened in the world of ecosystems in the last year? You seen anything happen that kind of made you go,
Wow, so many things that make me go, Obviously, one of the big things that everyone is talking about here is AI. And I think, the through line to the impact this is having on ecosystems is so many of the AI solutions that are out there are about essentially creating greater connections, either like inside a company's tech stack using AI to be able to leverage more data, develop insights. Well, where does that data come from? It comes from, either tech integrations or explicit, data partnerships that we have. So that's definitely been an accelerant to this. I think as people start looking at things like AI agents, I mean, oh my goodness, I can barely keep up on a day-to-day, like play-by-play what's been announced, but now we've moved beyond just talking about AI agents, where there's already a lot of discussion out in the marketplace about networks of agents and how agents interact with other agents. And when you think about it, I mean, this is just another generation of the ecosystem. Who owns these agents? How do they interact with each other? What is the incentives for that? So I don't claim to have the answers figured out on that at this point, but I think that's actually been a very exciting accelerant to the ecosystem discussion, particularly in the tech space. I think it's going to be an absolutely fascinating next few years ahead.
I can't wait to see where it goes. I've been to a lot of conferences lately where people have spoken specifically around AI in the partnering space. And the kind of one thing that I hear from people is they don't really know where to begin. They don't know where to start. Everybody turns on a chat bot on their website that has some AI engine behind it, but I don't think that's realizing the true value of the concept behind artificial intelligence. Do you have advice for people on where to start in your ecosystem? I mean, what do you do with AI today, right now today, or starting next year? What's the right thing for them to start on?
Yeah, I sort of look at approaching the problem from two sides, the hard work and the easy work. The easy work, quite frankly, is even just spending more time playing around with things like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. The speed at which these general purpose tools are developing is amazing. I don't know if anyone follows a fellow named Ethan Mollick. He's a professor of marketing at Wharton and has kind of become a little bit of a folk hero in the LLM world, because he just he apparently spends all his days like experimenting with these things and like writing up like, hey, did you know this was possible? And here's what these folks are doing with this. And it's two things from that. One is like every time I come across one of his posts, I'm like, wow, I had no idea it could actually do something like that. That's pretty wild. But also his like recurring advice to people is you've got to get in and you've got to play with this stuff, because it is such a mental shift of even recognizing what's possible. And so in many ways, I consider that the easy stuff, is if you're a tech partner leader and you aren't using one of these tools pretty much on a daily basis to see how could I harness this, how could I push this to help me with my work, I think you're missing an opportunity. Now the actual hard work is so much of the stuff that's really exciting about where AI is going to head. It's all dependent on the data. And we've known this for a long time. Data has, again, been like the foundation of so much of tech partnerships. But the truth is, a lot of data systems inside companies are still pretty immature. They're still very fragmented. We haven't really always known, even if you have like a data lake or a data warehouse, people have been throwing a lot of data into these things, not necessarily getting a lot of, insider operational feedback loops out of it. But that's changing, and I think this is just one of the things that, from a operations perspective, making sure like, okay, well, what's the data we have, with our partners? What are we going to share with our partner network? What are we looking to, ingest from our partner network? How does that work from a technical level, a policy level? These are things that are worth investing in. We can get leverage out of them today with many existing applications, but they're also that foundation that you're going to need to be able to feed into some of these exciting things happening with AI to like, oh, how do we get more insights out of this? How do we get more automated experience?
Yeah, really, I do come away from conversations with people really by saying, regardless of where you are in your AI journey, if you're not currently working on your data model, if you're not currently working on how to feed your data into your own, large language model and start training on your own stuff, you're probably a little bit behind right now. I'm not saying that most people have figured out how to drive it. I'm still a little bit of a neophyte myself on it. I'm continually surprised by how intelligent a good AI system can be. And by good, I don't mean Apple Intelligence, because that's horrendous. But for example, I took a huge spreadsheet that had our last couple years worth of revenue through our own partner community and just dropped it into ChatGPT and said, tell me what trends you find in this data. And it did an amazing job. So, so don't underestimate the power of the engines. I was also sitting on the beach in Florida the other day, and it was starting to get dark, and I looked up and I saw Venus up there, and I asked ChatGPT to write me a haiku about traveling to Venus, and it did a great job with that one too. But that's what most people use, is that generative AI, rather than I feed our competitors' websites into ChatGPT, and I
brilliant.
say to it, how do you think we're better than so-and-so?
No,
there's so much power.
I was actually joking around with someone on this, just trying to tease them a bit on how possible it was, and we were in the middle of a discussion around our ecosystem strategy. And I'm like, well, for instance, let's ask ChatGPT about this, and gave it some context of current situation. And my God, the thing that came back, I'm like, that's really pretty damn brilliant. I'm not saying we lifted that wholesale, but it even brought ideas to it just as a sparring partner, a brainstorming partner to sort of give you a wider point of view. It's pretty cool.
Audience participation question. How many of you, when you use ChatGPT, how many of you are polite with it? Please and thank you, stuff like that. I'm so polite with ChatGPT. When Skynet takes over, I want to be on the good side. That's what I'm saying.
It's funny. So one of Elon Malick's recent posts was, I guess they had done some data analysis on a report, and this was from a year ago, so everything may have changed. But they'd actually found, when they told the LLM that it was December, its actual performance dropped because it was kind of getting lazy with the holidays. I kid you not, they actually did this these are weird things.
Are we sure it's really artificial? Or are there people offshore somewhere that are actually typing these answers
It's
in?
Mechanical Turk, really. Yes, that's the whole thing.
Aside from AI, I've watched and used for many years HubSpot. Great product, really good tech, really good company, and I've always been an advocate for it. But I've seen a really meteoric, maybe too much, but a really amazing growth in the company, and I'm not suggesting anything, but it does seem to parallel your time at the company. How do you use ecosystems? How do you use partnerships at HubSpot to gain and keep competitive advantages?
All right. Well, I definitely can't take credit for any of that, but I will say, all right, the alignment of these things makes a ton of sense. So basically, three major things have been happening at HubSpot here over the past 7 years. The first was truly expanding the platform itself. We started with, say, some very good tools in the marketing space. We started to expand that into the, sales and sales engagement space, but there was a lot of work to truly flush out what could truly be considered a CRM, a customer data platform, at the center. And so all those product and engineering teams that were working on that created a really strong foundation. And one of the things that did was dramatically expand the number of customers on the platform. Because as much as I would love to take credit or give credit to my team for the amazing partner ecosystem, one of the single largest drivers for bringing partners into an ecosystem is having a customer base, an addressable market that is an opportunity for those partners. And so we owe that credit to the product team that built that platform foundation. The second thing was a very conscious choice, from the co-founders of the company all the way down to move from being what was a great product company, but everything we did from our product organization, engineering, through to our sales and marketing was very focused on our own products. What were we building? To make that shift to be truly a platform company where the value is not just what HubSpot engineers are building, but it's the partners in our ecosystem that bring so many capabilities far beyond what we build ourselves.
Once again, that multiplier capability.
Exactly, yeah, and that's a really big change. Even if just at the product and engineering level, changing the way you think about instead of building features, building extensibility, changing the way in which you go to market. How do you bring partners into that joint go-to-market experience? And then I think the third thing here is, with a combination of those two things, the product platform getting stronger and this ecosystem really starting to get baked into the operating system of the company, is we've also been able to start to move up market. Now, again, for HubSpot, what we call up market is what all the rest of the world would call mid-market, companies in that like 200 to 2,000 employees. But it was a significant step up from our origin story really on the SMBs, where it's typically companies under 100 employees.
I really am impressed when you talk about the alignment with the founders. Do you think that alignment, do you think that their buy-in to the concept of building your own ecosystem, not just enabling other people to build ecosystems, but really building your own group of alliance partners and go-to-market partners, do you think that they believe that that's a business driver for them?
100%, yeah. And it was always from the very beginning. So the two co-founders, Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah. Dharmesh Shah, before he founded HubSpot, was I know this because I ended up in a class with him once, at school. He was an absolute student of platforms and ecosystems back, from the days with Microsoft and what they built. So he was very passionate about that opportunity. And then Halligan, from a even just a very pragmatic business analysis perspective, look at all the largest, most successful transformational technology companies out there. They're all platforms. They're all about not just what that company is building, but how have they been able to enable people around them to extend those capabilities and build very successful businesses themselves. And so I think both of them, they had the religion on that from the very beginning. But again, just when you start out as a small company, an ecosystem is an incredibly difficult thing to create if you don't have enough value established, to attract partners, to give them an opportunity, And so it took them 10 years, I think, before they were really ready to say, okay, HubSpot's at a stage where we could actually make this happen.
Yeah. We get asked a lot, speaking about SMB, we get asked a lot by companies that are just starting to grow their program. What are the right steps to take? When's the right time to buy, as an example, a PRM like Impartner, or maybe even one of the lower end PRMs? And what you said is really important, which is not at first, because you've got to establish your business at first. If you go to a partner and you say, hey, I'd like you to become a resale partner of mine, they'll say, you bet, yeah, what's your revenue? Well, that's the good thing is you're going to build no, come talk to me when you got 5 million. And so we typically see a lot of people say, I'm going to run this direct until I hit about the 5 million mark. Then I'm going to be able to attract partners intentionally that I really want to partner with, rather than just being, opportunistic about who fills out the form on my website. And then they start managing them manually. When they hit about 20 partners, they say, I can't keep scaling like this. I have to automate in order to grow. And then they turn to the automated tech solutions like us, like Salesforce, like some of the other companies out there. So yeah, that's
no. And I think it's also fair to say, again, what the right time is and what's the right shape of an ecosystem. There's not a universal answer to that. In the case of HubSpot, because we were trying to serve a very horizontal category and needed very horizontal partners, the scale we had to have in order to make that attractive, is very different than there's a lot of companies I see that, they're much more specialized, in who they're serving and how they're serving, and they can have ecosystems, at a smaller scale that are incredibly successful for that space. Context matters, I guess.
Absolutely. I want to go back to integration. For those of you that haven't read it, HubSpot did a great piece of research a couple of years ago, I guess 2022, maybe early 23, called The State of Partnering. Very good. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. I've got it on my laptop. I'm happy to send it to anybody. I don't take credit for it. This is what I took a quote out of it. You ready? It says, to be successful, ecosystems require orchestration. Orchestration across a high number of internal and external stakeholders. This requires a powerful tech stack, efficient processes, and well-designed programs The category as a whole, meaning the partnering category, lacks robust APIs and integrations, which are essential when trying to share data across so many partners and internal departments. Does that resonate with you?
Yes, and by the
Integration, orchestration.
I would, by the way, also just give credit Kelly Sarabin, who
Yes.
joined us a couple years ago, to initially just even with this role of helping be an advocate for ecosystems and partners. Boy, has driven so much of the evolution, of HubSpot's partner program. So
Yep.
she was the architect behind
Yep.
that report. I want to give her full credit on that.
Right.
But yes, that being said, I mean, again, my background actually before focusing on the ecosystem at HubSpot was more broadly in what we would call the MarTech space. All these different marketing technologies. And yeah, if you've ever seen this crazy map of like 14,000 MarTech solutions out there, I mean, integration has always been the biggest challenge in this sort of new age we're in, where just so much software gets created. It is steadily getting better. And I think even if you think about like, the partner technology space, partner tech, I'd imagine like from where it was in 2022 to where it is now, we're already seeing like a significant advancement in like, okay, what's accessible through APIs? How do we get these things to integrate with more of our systems across the tech stack?
Yeah. And a vendor like ourselves, we see kind of new technologies arriving in the market. Co-sell that kind of arrived on the scene and has become so huge, and we see that kind of move into mainstream adoption with our customers, and we say, you know what, we better integrate with that. So we've got crossbeam integration and things like that, because we see those pieces almost being magnetically drawn to the center of that partner tech stack, and for us, data integration or orchestration is what's necessary to enable the tools to all work. I'm going to say seamlessly, but I'm kind of air quoting around seamlessly, to be able to work seamlessly together. The case that we just heard up here of Unitrends, they've got a tool for running their incentives. They've got us for running their partner relationship. They got a tool for paying out incentives. All those things have to know, the left hand has to know what the right hand's doing, kind of across all that stack. And so really having a tool or a platform to kind of orchestrate around has become as critical in partner tech as I believe it is in MarTech.
Yeah. It's funny, like we no longer use the phrase digital transformation. Probably, thank God, everyone probably happy we've retired that. But that actually really is what's happening here still is, yes, we've got all these digital systems now, but the operations work around how they all get interconnected, how they all get managed, how they all get governed. We've still got a long way to go, and I think it's important not to underestimate. I mean, I think a lot of people, a lot of companies can take a lot of credit for how far they've come. The whole craziness with the pandemic was a big accelerant to companies investing in more digital operations. But boy, we've got easily another 5 to 10 years of a lot of maturity to happen. It'll be exciting to see the degree to which, on one hand, I think AI might help accelerate that. At the same time, I think AI is also going to make the environment a little bit more complex. So, yeah. Anyways.
So, I mean, we have our own operations team. One of our ops experts, in fact, a massive star in the space, is here with us. But one of the titles that we've seen really kind of growing, in fact, more rapidly than almost any other title right now, is in the ops space, revenue ops and partner ops. It's a huge growth area. Just to have somebody that really understands how the electrical wiring all goes together in your ecosystem. Do you see that?
Yes. It's funny. So I've used a term occasionally, big ops, a little bit of a nod to big data instead of the volume, velocity, variety of data. It's the volume, variety, velocity of all these different apps and automations and agents and all that sort of stuff. This is not something that's unique to revenue or marketing or partner. You can pretty much take almost any department name that you can think of in companies, and if you add the word ops to it, I assure you there is someone in that company at any scale who has that title, maybe has an entire team. And I actually think this is a great thing. Again, going back to what we were saying earlier here about this, forgive the phrase, this ongoing maturing of digital transformation it's both at one level, developing that operations expertise within each one of these domains, because each one of these domains has a whole bunch of things that are very unique to it. But at the same time, how do we start to connect these different ops teams together, because they aren't living in a silo? And what we're doing in marketing ops and how it impacts what we do in sales ops and what it does in partner ops, and is revenue ops the thing that like brings all those together? Some of them are trying, but then how does that intersect with what's happening in finance? And finance, there's a lot there. Anyways, I would call it big ops, and I do think it is the
Big
most
ops is
exciting
the new
and the
term.
biggest challenge. Most
That's the
companies are
new term
wrestling
we'll
with.
use, big ops. Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Do you have an example where some partnering strategy that you've implemented, or even just a specific partnership that you've implemented, has really been a driver for success at HubSpot? What did you do? What was the result? And kind of what drove that as a strategic effort?
Yeah. All right. Well, there's one I will share here that I'm incredibly excited about, and this is one of the brainchilds of Kelly Sarabin's here, so I'm going to give her another shout out. So the HubSpot ecosystem has largely been in two parts. There's been our solutions partner ecosystem, there's our channel, but also, not just about selling HubSpot. It is a lot of the folks who do the services and consulting, and that is the more mature half of the ecosystem. That got started about 2010, 2011. We then have the world that I've been managing for the technology partners, the app partner ecosystem. And while there were always these sorts of informal connections, between these different partners, HubSpot hadn't really put a mechanism in place to how do we help these partners work together? And so one of the things Kelly and her counterparts on the solutions partner side architected this past year was something we called the Partner Growth Accelerator, where we took about a dozen of our top app partners and a dozen of our top solutions partners, paired them together. And there was this 8-week cohort process they would go through. We brought in various expert leaders to consult with them, where those two partners were collaborating on how do we come up with a joint go-to-market opportunity, joint go-to-market campaign to really be able to both help drive new business and help differentiate what they were collectively able to offer. And then based on those who completed that process, HubSpot would then offer MDF combined with MDF from the app partner. The solutions partner would kick in, and then we'd jointly execute on those campaigns. That was a tremendous success, and there's a lot of great, outside of even the MDF campaigns, a lot of great new partnership ideas that those pairs came up with and they just ran with on their own. So we're actually in the process here of saying, okay, that pilot went well. We'd like to, if at all possible, do 10 of those, here
Double down.
in 2025. Yeah. So very cool to see how that came together.
All right, I love that. Listen, last question, unless there's any from the group. Yeah, Rob. This concept.
It is the inevitable tension of any platform ecosystem is where's the overlap between the platform and its partners. This is such a historical challenge in ecosystems that we have names for it. Like once upon a time, we used to call it steel bricking, for anyone who remembers that Salesforce
Yes.
experience. Or
For
more
those who
recently,
don't remember, Steelbrick was a partner of Salesforce that
they got acquired, but then anyone
acquired.
else who was in that CPQ space, was
shut
challenged.
out.
Apple, they now call it Sherlocking, and I don't actually mean to make light of it, because it is actually one of the most challenging things for both the platform and the partners when there becomes overlap. That being said, man, I look at the range of everything that businesses want to do out there and the speed at which technology is evolving. And I'll just state for the record, I don't think there is any way in hell that any one company is going to develop all the software to serve all the needs of every single customer. Google can't do it, Amazon can't do it, Microsoft can't do it. Microsoft, probably one of the largest, players in this space. and one of the most successful with all the like ecosystem technologies that connect around with them, So I feel like very strongly that the opportunity for collaboration is far greater, than the challenges we have with overlapping competition. But that being said, it does happen, and it's very much at that margin of, companies trying to decide like, okay, do I need a specialized tool for this? Do I need a capability beyond my core platform? And if the answer is yes, great, get the right technology for that. And that is then our responsibility and the partner's responsibility to make sure those things are going to work really well together. If they don't need it, they don't need it. But, I have a weird hobby of, looking at tech stacks. I really do need to get out more often. People have been talking about tech stack consolidation for over a decade.
And it never consolidates.
It does and it doesn't, but it's like, it's on the margin. Like I think there's these companies, these SaaS management platform companies, like Xylo is one, Better Cloud's one, and they connect to all the different apps that you're running in your company and help you manage them. And as a result, those companies often publish aggregate reports every year of like, okay, well, what are the average size of tech stacks for companies at, different scale? And in 2023 to 2024, which was the year not only where was this the usual cry for consolidation, but the CFO, right? Finance organizations, companies were strapped. It was a really hard year for SaaS. Folks are like, no, if we don't need this tool, we're getting rid of it. The average drop in tech stack size was about 10%. Like I think for companies of like, the mid-sized companies, went from on average having maybe around 270 SaaS subscriptions to 240. Now, again, not going to make light of that, and if you're one of those 30 SaaS, products that got turned off in that process, not pleasant. But I simply say this to say, like, I feel like the pace of technological innovation is outpacing the ability for any one company on the planet to just like, oh yeah, no, we'll do it all.
Integration, orchestration, absolutely the key to that. 100%. Oh, yeah, Scott, yeah. Really, just that. If you think about the difference between the CRM data and the PRM data, it is possible to kind of feed both of those things into an LMM separately and try and drive correlation that way. But we're a little bit jealous as the PRM of all of the data that a CRM has. And so we build connectors to pull that data into the PRM. In other words, when a deal gets registered, we know what the deal registration is because some of that comes through our portal, but then all of that deal closure and, invoicing and renewals, all of that is held in the CRM and we don't see that. And it is possible to structure the data so you can map those together, but we say, pull all of this, set up your connectors, pull all of that data into one source. We think it's the PRM, I'm so sorry. Get all of that data into the PRM. Then when you feed that into the LMM, all of that correlation is already made. Does that make sense? But really, it is just that. And again, you probably have, in your company, you probably have data science people that are tasked specifically with that. I'm certainly not one of them with my liberal arts degree, but I do see companies that I see taking good steps towards being able to define what our data model is. What are the repositories that we care about? How do we connect fields to fields as we try and synchronize our data across all these repositories? What's one piece of advice you could give to people listening to this that you think would be the right next step for them to take in building a more effective and efficient ecosystem model for their company, whether it's strategic alliances or tech partnerships or go-to-market partnerships or service provider partnerships? What's the right next step for people to take, in your opinion?
Wow. very hard to, just say like,
Pragmatically.
okay, here's one
one
thing to
thing
do.
to do.
I think I would actually go back to the report you were citing there, too, on the partner ops side of things. So much of what we are trying to orchestrate here now is dependent on having great operations capabilities within our partner programs and our partner teams. And to your point, these folks are hard to find. This is a new space. Even if you're like having someone who's sort of like developing, these skills, on their own. I think just investing in getting the partner ops foundation really strong is something that almost at whatever scale you're at will pay dividends, having that foundation for how you grow to the next stage.
Somebody that understands the bits and pieces, how they fit together, and strategically how you want that all to flow.
The technology side of it, the data side of it, and I say this just for confession, like I felt I was late on that. When I was building the ecosystem at HubSpot, leaned very heavily into things around the strategy, very heavily into the partner relationship management, felt like, all right, well, when we get larger and larger, okay, eventually we'll need to get some partner ops stuff. And by the time like we actually invested in partner ops, I was like, wow, I should have done that like about 2 years ago. That would have been better. So hopefully don't make the same mistake I did, invest in partner ops early and often.
Good. I love it. Are there any other questions? If not, we're going to wrap up. Hey, thanks.
Oh, thank you.
No, I really, really, really appreciate it. One of the things that we wanted to emphasize to people is when one of the prior presenters that you weren't quite here for, when Brad gave his pitch, he talked a lot about a workshop. And I just want to clarify, that's not a sales pitch, so that you know. That really is a way for us to kind of evaluate where you are in your partnering process. For people who are interested in doing that, whether you're viewing this online, it is possible to register to do a workshop with one of our team and come away with a scorecard that does 3 things. First of all, it will show you where you are in your journey. It will, second of all, show you the steps that you should take to build out the KPIs and metrics so that you can sit down with your executive team, your CFO, and justify further and deeper investment in this space. And third, it gives you the language to use as you have that dialogue. We think that speaking in terms that your CFO understands is terribly important. I know analysts in this space that say the number one thing you can do to further your own partnering program is to make sure that your strategic goals and KPIs align with the company's. And what I mean by that is, and you probably have experience with this, you may be driving for partner growth. I want to get 100 more partners into my program by the end of this year. I need some service provider partners. I need some tech partners. I want to build my program out. Meanwhile, the CFO and the CEO may be thinking, we got to get our churn rate down. How can our partnering get our churn rate down? If you can please figure out what they care about and care about the same thing and have metrics that map to that, you will find the path to deeper and further investment in your space. I want to thank everybody that was able to come today. Thank you so much. People watching online, we appreciate your time. Thanks to Scott. Thanks to everybody that was here and participated. Thanks to our co-sponsors on this one. Really appreciate Crossbeam. And I think that's a wrap. Please drink a lot of booze on your way out, and then don't drive home. Thank you.